I think we're ready to go. I'll call this finance meeting to order for April 14th. And Dan's here, Janelle's on the screen, and we're all here, I believe. And we'll approval of minutes. These are dated March 25th of this year. Any changes or anything? Not?
No.
Nope.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Somebody make a
Opposed?
motion on that one? So moved. Thank you.
They're all ayes. No problem. Gotcha. Next is public appearance, not agenda items. There's nobody in the other rooms or anything, is there? We're good? Okay. Okay. Okay, next is Finance Director's report. Misty?
Everybody. So when we get to the all checks, I'm going to point out about the different codes that we're doing for COVID, but ultimately we don't know exactly what's going to be reimbursable still for COVID, so we're keeping track of all of our time and all of our expenses just in case, and we will go back after the fact and see which things are actually eligible. But when you get to all checks, there's a code on there that you'll be able to see when those things apply. The new processes that you guys approved last time with the mayor approval of things more than 25,000, when the email is kicked out back to you guys, for the most part, that's working out well as long as I remember to look for the right box. And then the payroll system is all set up how we need it to be based on that stuff. Kind of along those same lines, the CIP, generally at this point, we would be preparing that document for the mayor. We put it on what I call a pause at this point with everything else going on. Department heads are having a hard time pulling together the information, and then I'll still need time to put it together and to get it to Aaron. So we're really going to focus on, I hate to say it, but a good enough strategy. We're going to make sure we focus on the next couple of years. Anything that's really important, we'll still try to incorporate. But because of timing and other things, it's probably not going to be as thoroughly vetted as what it will be then the following year. So we'll make sure to true everything up the next year. Non-COVID related stuff. So we did have our last agency called from an investment standpoint. This one's one that went out for a really long time. It got called because the market has gone down so much. We have reinvested that in CDs. At this point, all of our stuff is in CDs now, which is nice just from a predictability standpoint. So we're fully implemented with that with WISC. It was that agency that was called was the last one from the prior investment advisor that we worked with. Also working on audit right now. So the field work is wrapping up, and then we're starting to work on the final report pieces. The auditors generally are here the second meeting in May. But again, because of everything, that's probably going to be pushed back to the first meeting in June for those of you that are still on the finance committee. So that is moving forward with just a little bit of a delay. Other than that, everything else seems to be on track. So the debt proceeds spending is on track. The utility billing collections are good. We are pausing also our collection efforts on accounts receivable. So we already don't have interest and penalty on a lot of our invoices, so we don't have to worry about it from that perspective. But we didn't want to send out statements and send people to collection and all of that stuff at this time. So we are putting a pause on that also. Though we are still continuing to keep up on our new invoices so that we can at least stay current. Our records are up to date as far as how much people do owe us. And then when everything is back to normal, we can follow up on those. And then flushing was supposed to have been last week. We actually delayed it a week until this week. With everybody being home, we wanted to make sure we got that notice out to everybody. So you probably saw a couple of different news flashes going out, letting people know about that happening so that people weren't nervous. That's all I have.
I just have one question for you. It has to do with that coronavirus and the coding. Do you expect maybe in a couple months to give a list to the council as far as what we know will be paid by coronavirus money and what's not?
Yeah, so at this point, we don't know exactly what that is. So we're just keeping track of everything, and then we can filter out what's actually eligible in the future. there's a few different things that I'm keeping track of right now that I will have to report back to the council. The different policies that you authorized at the last meeting, you know, in particular the leave policies, the budget amendment, how we're going to spend that $250,000, anything that was approved by the mayor and that unusual circumstance for the budget amendments, we'll report back on all of that. So at this point, we're still trying to accumulating everything and making sure we're tracking it. The report back will happen probably next month.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Thanks. Next, then we'll go to the review of bills. These are checks for $10,000 and above. These are dated March 16th through March 31st of this year. The total is $264,000. 2,000. Start over. $2,624,666.28. Any questions? Not, the next is review of checks. These are check numbers 120,645 through 120,701. These are dated March 16th through March 31st of this year. The total is $2,718,451.55.
So this one is where I would like to point out, so on the fourth page of the checks, there's one for Marco Technologies. You'll see there's that code 23 in the second column or the third column, depending on how you look at it. That code 23 is that COVID code. So those are the things that were purchased specifically to address the pandemic.
Okay, gotcha. Next is the ACH payments for $10,000 and above. These are dated March 2020. The total is $371,596.34. Any questions? Next is a review of all ACH payment. These are dated March 2020 this year. Total is $377,817.07. The next one is the P-card transactions for $10,000 and above for the recycling ending February 6th of this year. The total on that is $136,941.43. And I believe we have 3 left. Next is the P-card transitions for February 6, 2020. The total is $312,242.74. Any questions or anything? Not. The next one is the P-card for $10,000 and above. These are for the cycle ending March 6th of this year. The total is $68,597.78. The last one I have is the P-card transactions for cycle ending March 6, 2020. Total is $245,777.68. Then we'll go to the action items. The first one I have is Fish Hatchery Road reconstruction update. Who's handling it?
Yep.
Mike? Okay.
So we're fully under construction right now. I can give you a little bit of the financials. We've got one pay request from Integrity. It was mainly mobilization, just to get all their equipment on site and get equipment and materials here and get started. We are in the process of, we've got a pre-approval for 1 bus shelter. We're gonna have 3, but we're kind of gonna order them as we need them so that when we get them, they kind of get put in place. So they'll kind of, one probably will be later this summer, and then one will probably be the following year. And they're about $9,500 a piece. You should have a little summary packet in your packet. So construction right now, up to date, we're at about $75,700 roughly. Just over $2.5 million of engineering. Business outreach is about 2,300. Property acquisition's about 2.3 million. We're just about done with property acquisition. We've only got 4 properties yet to close on, and they're not critical properties. We have had to have a few properties, go through eminent domain. 4 parcels were acquired through that process. We're gonna be just a little bit over in the land acquisition, but part of that was, remember when we bought the Pike Drive parcel, we bought the whole thing instead of just part of it. And so we should be able to recoup those dollars. So we think we're pretty well on task there. And we haven't spent any contingency to date. Traffic switch, just so you guys are aware, I know it's not a financial thing, but right now we've really kind of dialed that in. They were thinking of trying to do it Friday, but we were a little concerned that if the utilities didn't get relocated, we could be pushed to the end of the night Friday, and going into the weekend with a traffic switch isn't a great thing. So we're gonna do that probably first thing Monday morning. We'll be moving all the lanes over to the southbound lanes. So there'll be 3 lanes, through in each direction and a bi-directional left. And then we'll be working on the northbound lanes starting next week. So I think that gives a pretty good summary of where we're at. We did have, even though the COVID thing we had the kickoff meeting scheduled to be at the hotel, but we had it through Fact TV and kind of had a call in. Had some pretty good response there, but frankly, if there's one good thing about it, the traffic's been light out there, so it's helped expedite construction, and that's kind of what we're trying to take advantage of, why the traffic's light. Let's get everything done that we can and maybe try to get ahead of schedule if we can.
I got a couple, but my partners, Janelle or Dan, any questions? Or Mike, in reference to fish hatchery, Janelle, do you have any questions?
Nope.
I do. In reference to, you probably are ahead of it, Mike, in reference to signage to tell people that next week we're changing the lanes. Is that going to hit this weekend or Friday? Or in other words, just what you said, so people know about the lane change?
We likely will start that tomorrow, but we kind of want to make sure, there's 2 really critical utility relocates that are kind of controlling that, and we certainly don't want to put out the information too early and then have to switch it, so then people are expecting something. So if we know the utilities are going to be out of the way, tomorrow the arrow boards or the message boards will go up, kind of alerting of that change. If not, definitely before the weekend, they'll go up. As soon as we're certain that the switch is going to happen, we'll get them up.
And I can't speak for future finance people and future finance chairs. I felt that this was important to leave on at least once a month to report on it. You don't have to, as far as I'm concerned, report the next finance meeting.
Okay.
At least once a month show up. Now, that might change with a new chairman for the finance, chairperson, whoever for finance. But the fact is I thought it was important for finance and the public, because it's such a big project, starting at what, 41 million, that we keep people informed with it. Because that was just in my crawl, okay?
Yep.
Just so you know, that was me. I would suggest you, Mike, they keep going, and just once a month.
Yeah, we'll probably.
What do you think?
Yeah, we'll probably provide an update to this body and the council once a month, just where we're at, especially if there's anything out of the ordinary.
Yep.
So, okay.
And we'll probably, when McKee Road starts up, we'll probably tailor in a little update for that too, because that's a major project as well. So
That's fine.
We'll probably
That's fine.
we'll probably do both at the same meeting.
They're just, to me, it's kind of staying on top of it, and that's all. And has there been any changes? I've been kind of watching the updates, but has there been any changes or any way to make it safer for bikes? I know. I brought this up before.
It's really difficult. There hasn't been a lot on there. I mean, with what's going on, I think people have kind of just stayed away from it. But they're really, it's difficult because we've got a lot of cross traffic with the bikes as well. So they're, without spending a large sum of money, it's hard to find a spot for them. So we're just gonna, you know, all we've done is every meeting, we bring it up to the contractor that they've got to be very diligent as far as protecting the pedestrians and the bike traffic and making sure that if there's any closure in any of those paths or sidewalks, that they need to do a good job of signing that. So we do bring it up every time.
Now, I'm talking to you in person and not on the screen. My point was, and I think you know, you're the same as I am, the biggest thing is the safety.
Absolutely.
People are running late, people are in a hurry, people are gonna turn and not see the bike. God willing, it won't happen, but I just really think these bikes in the construction zone, it's kind of a bad deal. It's just, I think, a bad deal. I can't imagine the cops are saying, yeah, Tom, that's a great idea for having bikes through there. We like it, Tom. It's a great idea. But food for thought.
Sure.
That's what I want.
Yeah, let me add just one small comment to that. I went through that intersection, gosh, probably about a week ago, and I know that our contractors are doing what they can. I know the city is doing what they can, but ultimately there are some pretty significant distractions as you go through there as a driver of a car and paying attention to really everything that's going on. And I think if a bike was coming through there, it would be easy to overlook that, just given everything that's going on in that intersection. And I know we can't tell bicyclists not to do that, but it is a concern.
And during non-changeover times, we could put up our message boards and just say, you know, pay attention to pedestrian and bicyclists along route, just to try to re-alert the public to pay a little closer attention. If you think that would help, we can certainly do that.
You know, I'll leave it up to you. I mean, there's people at home tonight probably watching this and are sitting there saying, I'm a bicyclist, and Tom's got a, why is he picking on bikes? All it takes is one car to hit a bike or somebody get injured up there, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. You know, I'm not against bicyclists. You know, probably a lot of us sitting up here have them, but I'm just worried about the safety end of it, that's all.
Yep,
That's all it is.
understood.
I'll leave it up to you, you know.
Understood.
That's fine. I can live with that. That's fine. Thank you, sir. Next is Resolution R 4320, approval of playground and swing set structure for South Johnson Park. Misty or who are,
We need a motion?
you're correct?
So moved.
Okay, yeah, this project was in the CIP, and it is, was actually selected by the neighborhood through the parks, through a letter and through the Parks Commission. And it was actually selected, the same design of the playground was selected by the Parks Commission, not knowing the neighbors had selected the same thing. So it's a sort of a win-win scenario. Will be installed this year.
Did that meet the cost what it was supposed to be?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And is this something that's, I'm just not familiar with this particular, some of the details on this. Is this just part of our standard budget, or is this reimbursed through some kind of building project and developer?
Misty, this is just through our park improvements, correct?
So not park improvement fees because it's a replacement, so it's just part of property tax dollars that go to keep up the parks.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. If there's no other question, all in favor say aye. Aye. Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, carried. Next resolution is R 46-20, approving agreement for subdivision improvements in the plat of Crescent Crossing. I need a motion. Misty?
Mike will handle this one.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. So this is kind of our standard subdivision improvement agreement. It kind of lays out, what we're requiring for public improvements, what has to be done before we issue building permits and occupancy permits. Just pretty standard form for the Crescent Crossing development out there by Seminole and Lacey. So nothing unusual.
There are no questions. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next one is resolution, it's R 58-20, Seminole Village Pond Municipal Flood Control Grant Project. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
So-
Question on this one, is this a Seminole Kettle?
It is not the Seminole Kettle, Janelle. This is a Seminole Village Pond right there at the corner of McKee and Seminole. That's going to be part of the McKee Road project. And so it's part of that project, and we are applying for a grant. Well, the total project cost, according to the bids, about $350,000. We're applying for a WDNR grant for about $175,000, and we're asking for the Dane County for about $125,000. Just it'll help offset the funding, so that's all this is a grant application. And we're expanding and dredging that Seminole Kettle Pond, or Seminole Village Pond, to add capacity based on our road project improvements. So it should reduce funding in the neighborhood, or reduce flooding, I'm sorry.
No other questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, carried. The next one is resolution, it's R 63-20, approving supplement agreement for subdivision improvements in the plat of second addition to Stoner Prairie. Any motion?
Motion to approve.
And so this is the same as Crescent Crossing. Janelle did point out we had a typo in there, and when we checked the typo said 444 lots, so we knew that was wrong. But they switched from 44 lots to 43 lots, so when we make the motion, or at least at council, we should say there's 43 developable single-family lots, not 44. I think they had one of the outlots counted as a developable lot at one time, and then they didn't call it an outlot. So we corrected that, but it didn't get carried over in the parks fee calculation. So it should be 43 lots, not 44. But otherwise, it's the same thing. It's for public improvements, laying out what they need to do, what they have to have done prior to building permits and occupancy.
Okay.
No questions.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, carried. Next one is R 64-20, authorizing acceptance of a proposal from, it is Eamon and Olivier, however it's pronounced. Okay. Resources Incorporated for stormwater management study and preparation of design concept to mitigate flooding surrounding Lake Barney. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Okay, so this one, we went out for RFPs. We got 6 proposals back. We picked the top 2 proposals and did interviews because this is such a large project. From that firm, you probably haven't recognized Emmons and Oliver, but they were combined with Mars, which was Montgomery Associates, who did Corey Vista and Terra Vesa. So they're very familiar in the area, and that's who we selected. There is a CIP. The CIP was for $60,000. That's what we're asking for this contract to do this initial study.
Does any of that have to be okay too? I'm sure it doesn't, but just asking, because I know the meetings have been with the, whatever, Oregon, Town of Oregon, DNR, do they have to approve it too or anything, or no?
They do not. This is all our portion. At some point when we get to a design, we might ask for participation because there could be benefits to both. But right now, this is really for us to figure out what our impacts are and what we need to do to alleviate those impacts to our property owners.
It's our side. It's our side.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, makes sense. Gotcha.
So I'm assuming even though we see a difference between the two bids that are, for discussion's sake, the lower price, we felt like there was a better value or better result from Emmons and Olivier?
Correct. Yep. We like their solution and their methodology a little bit better, and we're very comfortable with their interview.
Okay. Do you know, as far as I don't know another word for it, a warranty or anything in reference to the work that they do? Is there, just make sure the city,
They have $5 million of liability coverage, if that's kind of what you're asking, is, so, you know, if they have to kind of be responsible for their work through the liability insurance?
double sword, that plus the work that they do, as far as a guarantee or if there's a problem out there, you know, I call it a warranty, and I know that's not the right word.
Yeah.
But, you know, to the work that they do, because of the project we're dealing with out there, and
Yeah, I think it's really, you know, we're gonna have a lot of things vetted as we're going along, because all the public agencies are gonna be involved. We're gonna have public involvement meetings. So I think short of that liability insurance and us checking it, they have, you know, professional and ethical responsibilities to their work as well.
And Tom, once we get to the construction or whatever the resolution is to the situation out there, whoever does the work on site will have that level of warranty or insurance also.
Correct.
okay, thanks. There are no other questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next resolution is our 6820, a resolution authorizing approval of bids for construction of public improvements for Commerce Park Drive Extension. I need a motion.
Motion approved.
So this is actually Promega's contract, and if you remember at the last council meeting, you guys approved that cost-sharing agreement, which allows us to review and approve all contracts. So it's part of the TID development agreement out there that we have with Promega. So this portion of the contract will be paid all by them, but we're still responsible because it is a public improvement. The good news is we did get 4 bids. For a change, we got one to come in under bid. We're about $80,200 under bid, about $979,000. And the low bid was Hammersley Stone, and we recommend approving Hammersley Stone for the project. We got very good pricing, actually.
So what was the timing of that? Was that within the last few weeks, Mike?
Say that again, Janelle?
What was the timing on when we got a response back? I'm just curious if this COVID-19 is starting to affect the participation that we see in these bids, as well as potentially the price for the work that we're seeing.
Right now, I've talked to most contractors, and they also have a COVID-19 policy, so they're doing a lot of distancing to try to protect themselves. So we're seeing good participation in the bid environment. This one, I think the low price, to be honest, was reflected because of the location. If you look at the 2 bidders, Asphalt and the main contractor, Hammersley, it's right in their backyard. And I think that was very advantageous to us as far as pricing. So that might have had a lot to do with pricing. I'm hoping that we see prices come down in general, but I'm a realist. I'm not sure that that's fully gonna happen. But right now, the contractors are trying to protect themselves, and we are getting good response to our bids.
I forgot the timing, Mike. When is that supposed to come on to Lacey Road?
It will be built right up to Lacey Road this year, and then next year, when we do that piece of Lacey Road, the connection will be made, because we're changing the grade of Lacey, so we can't make the connection now, or all that work would have to be redone. So next year, it'll actually be connected, but it'll come up just short, like 25 or 50 feet short of Lacey this year, by this fall, and then next year, when Lacey gets done, it'll get connected.
For Lacey Road, is the thought, I just don't remember. Is there the thought to have a turn lane in there too?
There will be turn lanes.
As far as going in off
Off of Lacey on.
Lacey?
Yep, there will be turn lanes.
Got it. Any other questions?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, carried. Who said we couldn't move right along, you know? Next is resolution, it's 4720. A resolution authorizing the city to direct purchase of traffic signal equipment from the city of Madison for Fish Hatchery Road construction. This is direct referral. I need a motion.
Motion to approve?
So it was part of the budget package you guys approved when you approved the Fish Hatchery Road project. But the city of Madison maintains all of our signalized intersections. And so we want the equipment that we're getting to be stuff that they're familiar with to maintain, and it's consistent with what else we have out there. They will use the state procurement contract, so we will get state, bids based on that. And it's just the way to do it, to take two things too, is it takes out the contractor markup, so we buy it direct, and we save a little bit of money that way as well.
No questions.
It's the city of Madison, not Dane County?
It's the city of Madison.
City of Madison on this one?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Next is number 7720, a resolution approving the construction contract with Wisconsin Department of Transportation for McKee Road and amending the 2020 TID number 6 Unity in capital project, capital budget for McKee Road project. This is a direct referral. I need a motion.
Motion to approve?
So this is the McKee Road bid. It came in at about 4.6% over the estimate. However, there were some other funding things that we didn't have included in previous budget approvals. So we're asking for, just in rough figures, about $2 million. And that breaks down to about $390,000 of that is the 4.6% over the estimate. Excuse me, about $90,000 is for additional project work, and I can go into that in detail if you want. About $600,000 is our contingency based on the bid, and about $883,000 is the DOT requires us to pay them for oversight of the project, and it's basically 10% of the bid cost directly. So if you add that up, that's about the $2 million. Good news is we've gotten notification from Madison Planning Organization that we're going to get about $325,000 in additional funding. Madison didn't need all the funding that they had gotten, and instead of turning it back to the federal government, they released it early enough so that they could use it in the area, so that was good news. TIF 6 is funding about $1.4 million of this $2 million, and about $580,000 is general obligation debt. I can go through that. $90,000 is, some of that we will get reimbursed for, about $35,000 to try to keep the project on track and on schedule. We're redesigning some of the storm sewer work to avoid utilities so we don't have utility delays. We've kind of gotten a verbal agreement with MG&E, and I'm sure they're going to reimburse us because we're saving them some costs of relocation by redesigning our storm sewer, and they've agreed in terms to pay for that redesign work. So we should see some of that come back, probably about $35,000 of that $90,000. About $20,000 of that was for additional real estate. About $20,000 was because there was some hazardous materials by the railroad tracks, and when we moved that material, we had to come up with a plan and get approval from the DNR as to what's going to happen with that, if it's going to get replaced on site or get hauled away. And about $15,000 is for requests for information at the DOT process. If a contractor or anybody has a request for information like clarity on, what's required at this portion of a project, or could be a potential change order, then they have to respond to those as to what we want to do in writing. That's kind of the DOT process. So that's a little bit of the dollars too. So that's kind of where the money comes from. If you have some specific questions, it's really critical to keep this one moving at the same time as the Verona Road one, because we're using the same temporary signals and the same staging, so we've got to be kind of staged on the same stages, so when they go across the intersection at Seminole, we're both ready. Otherwise, we have a lot of cost overrun potential for additional traffic control and staging and whatnot. So we want to try to keep, that's why we're really pushing everything we can to try to keep this project on schedule.
So Mike, it sounds like we've got a couple of moving parts in here as far as the cost go. If we took a look at what the net is for increase by the time we look at these additional scopes and then different funding sources, do we kind of know what that bottom line looks like?
Correct, because based on the bid, you know, a couple of the line items actually had reductions. You know, if you look at the sewer, had a reduction of 21,000 based on bid items, and stormwater actually had a reduction of about 321,000 based on bid items. Water had an increase of about 104,000, and then, like I said, about 1.4 million is TIF, and about 580 is general obligation.
So do we have about 580,000 that will go as an increase to our budget in the general fund? Is that kind of the bottom line on these moving parts?
I believe so, but Misty maybe could answer that better than I could.
Yep, so not technically the general fund, but the property tax piece, we borrow for it and then have to pay back. That would be the $500 and some $1,000. Yeah, that would be that impact. The TID portion of it, the TID is very healthy, so they will be able to cash finance the additional piece there.
When we have something like that happen with that kind of change, I'm assuming we've got some mechanisms in place, because this is, I mean, I remember us having a budget conversation that really was pretty extensive around basically $15,000, right? And so we've got a fairly large increase here. I'm assuming we've got some mechanisms to make those adjustments as we go forward.
So this one's a little bit different. The money that we need, we're gonna borrow for, and under the levy limits, the amount that we borrow for that we have to pay back is actually adjusted in the calculation. So
Okay.
there is no levy limit impact for it. There's a property tax impact, because obviously we'll have to levy the money in order to pay that debt payment, but the levy limit, it won't be a concern.
Thank you.
No problem.
No more questions for me.
I kind of like the idea about that fish hatchery and this project, combine them once a month, but keep it in mind.
No, we're glad to do it. I'd rather keep you informed than have any surprises.
It's just staying on top of it. No, you got the idea.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried. Next is Resolution R 84-20, Families First Coronavirus Response Act Policy, adapting the Emergency Sick Leave and Family Leave Policy request by Families First Coronavirus Response Act, direct referral.
Motion to approve.
Misty will handle this one.
Okay.
Yep. So this resolution is mostly implementing the law that came through. So the Families First Coronavirus Response Act requires that we provide non-emergency responders that are full-time 80 hours worth of paid sick leave. So the bulk of what this is in front of you is identifying what an emergency responder is, because those are exempted from the requirements. But then there's two other pieces that I will say are policy, things that are above and beyond what the law requires that we're bringing forward for your consideration. The first one is in the law, there's 6 reasons why you would be eligible for this. Number 4 is if you're caring for a family member that has COVID, essentially. Under the law, we would be required to pay people 2/3 of their regular rate of pay, and we're proposing that we pay 100% for that instead. Ultimately, if we have an employee that's caring for a family member that has the disease, we don't really want them back in the office to possibly infect the rest of our workforce. And that can be a very trying situation. So we're proposing 100% pay in that situation. And then the other item is we are proposing that employees that need additional leave can go, we call it going negative, or can use their sick leave before they actually earn it for all of 2020, so that people can make sure that they have the opportunity to still get paid while they are dealing with this situation. So for the most part, this is just based on the law with those couple of different additional items.
No questions.
No questions, that sounds
These
good.
are questions or? I have, Misty, does this cover part-time? Let me just get them all out there. We have full-time staff, we have part-time staff, we have maybe LTs in the summer if we still have them. I mean, there's no way in telling who is going to catch this or when. No way that I know of. And I'm no doctor. But the fact is does this, I'm assuming, covers everybody?
Yes, the exception would be, so you mentioned like the summer people. If we don't have work for people in the summer, then they wouldn't qualify for this. We wouldn't hire a summer employee at this point, knowing that there's some uncertainty about how much work is available for them. But it does cover everybody. So the number of hours is prorated based on their normal work schedule. So for example, in the finance department, I have a part-time 20-hour per week person. So that person would be eligible for up to 40 hours, the equivalent of what she's half-time, so half of the 80 is what she would be eligible for. And then court cashiers is another example. So they would also be eligible for their prorated portion based on their prior experience or their prior number of work hours in a pay period.
Is this all prorated through how much an employee works as time goes?
It's a 6-month look back. So if there's an employee that's a standard amount, like that finance person is always 20 hours a week, then it's a set amount. If it's somebody that fluctuates a lot, then there's a 6-month look back where we see what their average was over the last 6 months.
And if they would happen to get the virus, they don't have to use sick time. They would use this provided to us by the government, or if they use their sick time, it gets paid back, or how are we working that?
Right, so this law really was designed, in my view of the world, for employers that don't already provide sick leave. The city does have a pretty generous sick leave policy, but we are still required to provide this leave above and beyond what we currently provide. The other thing you mentioned is about that we would get reimbursed for it, and we aren't eligible for that. So as a government, we are required to provide the leave. However, as a government, we are not eligible to get reimbursed for that leave. So that's why there's a budgetary impact to this. We don't know who or to how many hours or what dollar amount it needs, but we know that there is going to be a financial impact, and we'll bring a budget amendment after the fact for that because we are not eligible for reimbursement. Really?
So is this question an unanswered question, or if a cop goes and responds to a home and gets coronavirus because somebody had it within the house, and he or she comes down with it, I'm aware they have sick time, I get it, but I thought through the government, as far as a number of hours provided to the city that could be used, and they wouldn't have to use sick time.
So a couple of comments. One, a police officer actually is an emergency responder and is not eligible for this particular program. They are carved out from that, but you'll see the next resolution is for emergency responders in particular. But isolating that for your situation, so let's pretend I get sick, right, as the finance director. I'm not an emergency responder. The city is required to give me that 80 hours of leave above and beyond my sick leave so that I don't have to tap into my accrued leave. Normal or non-government employers would be eligible for reimbursement from the federal government for the cost of that, including wages and benefits. But as a local government, we are not eligible for reimbursement. So it's just a cost that the city is going to have to bear in addition to the leave that we are already required, or we are already providing.
Any other questions from two? Okay.
No.
I got the idea. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, carried. Next is resolution, it's R 85-20, adopting the coronavirus 19 sick leave for emergency response responders. This is a direct referral.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Again, Ms. Steele, handle this one. Ms. Steele, handle it. Yep.
So this is kind of a companion piece to that last resolution that we approved. The big difference being that under the law, we are not obligated to provide any additional leave. That being said, the city recognizes that emergency responders will also be in a similar situation, possibly, hopefully not, but possibly. So we wanted to provide some additional paid sick leave to that category of employees as well. So the full cost of this, again, will be borne on the city, not eligible for reimbursement because they're not required to be provided. And then it's based on 72 hours. The law from the one that we just passed was 80 hours. The reason why we're proposing 72 instead is because it's divisible by 24, which is what our firefighters work, is 24-hour shifts. So we wanted to try to keep that in that, within their schedule, but also within about the same as what is required to be provided under FFCRA.
No questions.
Danny, do you want to?
Okay, well, we can motion to table until the council meeting. What Tom suggested is we just take this up at council.
Just take it up at the council.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to generate some
I just
discussion.
assumed it there.
Yep.
I mean, Janelle, what we're thinking here, the thought up here is we're going to table this and bring it to the council level as far as it'll probably generate more discussion. And from the finance side, I'd like to just take it there and they'll have the final decision anyhow.
Yeah, I would state that you're going to defer it to council instead of tabling it here. That way we don't have to bring it back here next meeting.
Correct.
Yep.
So I have that Dan made the motion.
That's
So
right.
Dan, are you changing it to instead defer it to council without a recommendation?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay.
Any other questions on this? Did you catch it, Janelle? What we're doing
Yes.
with this one, as far as the
Yep.
numbers? Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
I'm on board.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, carried. Next is announcements. Anything missed or anything? I don't know anything. The next finance meeting is April 28th. Far as I know, it's 6:30. That's all I have. Okay. I'll need a motion to
Motion to adjourn?
adjourn. Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. We're adjourned. Thank you.